you did or just any issue. So if you have any complaint regarding the previous class, just air it now before we move forward. Okay, so I want to believe we are all cool, right? So awesome, that's good to know. So now I'll be sharing my screen so that we can jump right into the work. So give me a minute. Can we all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, so for purpose of revision, like I'll just quickly run through the way we got started the other time. That is how we created our project folder with what they call with command prompt, right? So I'll repeat the process for those of you that weren't able to get it clearly the other time. So this is the opportunity to grab it now. So as usual, like I'll first go to my command prompt, right? So I said I'm a fan of creating projects on my desktop. So I'll feed it to my desktop. We suggested we should name our application type, right? So we're still gonna work with that name. I'll run Flutter creates, then the name of the application. So we've talked about the naming convention here. So how you should name the application to make sure you don't get an error. I hope we all still remember that. So let's go and create a new project app. Okay. So now our project is successfully created, and so now let's see the into it, right? That is the next thing. That is we enter the project directory. cd app. So now we are inside the project folder now. So next thing is to open it on our code editor, right? So that is all we basically need to do. Okay, there's name confliction here. That is I should have deleted the one we had earlier before creating another one. So they actually got conflicted. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just take the process again. Let me delete this one first. Okay, it's complaining that it's already open. Let me close it. Okay. Okay, this window for you, like close the app. So what we'll do again now is to let's just change the name. What trick can we make to the name to make it different from what we have before? Should we call it okay, let's just call it, let's change the application to calculator AI, so it will work that way. Oh, that was a typo. So I said we should call it Dive application this time around, right? Or let's say Dive mobile app. All right. So okay. Like we said, we cannot use uppercase, right? So that was the mistake I made. You can only so this were the thing I was making mention the other time. You must be very careful with your naming. So it's creating another project folder for us. So that's done. Now let's see into the folder. All right. So now let's open it and see. So now are we all getting the logic?
Yeah, we are with you, sir. We are with you.
So now let's run the application again. So to run your application, all you have to do is to go to your terminal and type Flutter. All right. Okay. Let me connect my mobile device. I've said it earlier that I test with my mobile device, right? So that is what we are still gonna work with. So you can just ignore this command I'm typing now. When I'm using my mobile application, what I normally do is this. For you to start using your mobile application, right, you have to do the setup with code. All right. So, but test running your application with code is kind of like, to me, is somewhat uncomfortable because it tends to be shaking as time goes on, right? So to avoid that, what I normally do is that I use ADP, like ADP protocol. So what this one do is that it allows me to connect wirelessly. Okay. So there's a setup for it, but then like I'm very conscious of my battery percentage. I just want us to obtain something substantial before the restore light. So if you still have time, we visit that. So it's TCP IP 5555. All right. So, give me a minute. I'm trying to connect wirelessly using ADV right now. Awesome. So now I'll run my Flutter on again. Okay, so I've done my setup. So now I cannot test my application without even using code. I've actually removed my code here. So I can also be removing, operating my phone alongside. So now what I'm gonna do is I'll join with my mobile device again so that I can share my screen and show us what our application will look like. Let me be doing that while our application is running. Okay. It's still building, right? So I will explain something once the building is done. You see, we've added a new folder added to our package called build. So let me try to join with my other device first. I'll explain how come about that one and what is the essence of it. Okay, so it has actually run completely now. So, and it is showing on my phone. I'll share it in no time. So while I'm trying to like join with another account, so let me quickly explain what this build is. So you see that the thing took some couple of time before it got installed, right? So when you are testing with either your emulator or your mobile device, so when you run Flutter, what is actually happening is that your code will be compiled. So it should be compiled into an APK file. Okay. So remember, like after you build your application, right, you can either publish it on App Store or Play Store. So what you are actually publishing is not your entire code. Yeah, you can have your code on GitHub, but it's actually that APK file. So it should be compressed to that APK file. So let's just take a quick look at it. If you want to see what the APK file looks like, you come, that you open this and build, then you go to the app, you go to the outputs, you go to the APK. So so this is that is Flutter APK. Okay. It's supposed to be about let's see, let me share my screen for, let's see if maybe it has not compiled completely. Okay, can we see my oh. Right, so can we see my mobile screen now? Okay.
Yes, sir, we can. We can.
All right. So now let me go to the app that just got installed. So this is what we have. Okay. So that is after this application runs successfully. So this is the interface of what we got. So now let's talk about how come about the interface, like how was it generated? Remember, like if you explore this
About a week or two, and then we'd see if we see any positive changes. Maybe when I go back to the hospital, I might not have to do the tests, but if we are not seeing changes, then I would have to go do the remainder of the test.
Mr. E, you're
Sorry.
unmuted. Okay.
Sorry, yeah, sorry, I'm here.
You were unmuted. We're hearing your voice the other time, so you can kindly
I'm
mute yourself. All right. So now, so if you open the lib folder and you go to this main.dat, so Flutter generated like a code for you to explain some workflow, like some widgets. I mean, concept in Flutter in general. So this is the code that actually leads to what we are having presently on our screen. So let me just run us through what the code is doing. So the very first one, okay, the very first one is this main function, right? This is actually a function. I'm sure we've done a function in our previous class, right? So this is a function that returns no value. Hence, we have this void here. So, and this function, basically what it's doing is just to like run another function inside within it, which is called my app.
Sorry, Mr. Rashid, someone wants to speak. Someone wants to speak. Mary Precious, or I don't know her name. Right.
Okay. So you can go on Mary Precious. Mary Precious, I'm with you.
Okay. Please, I cannot see your screen perfectly. I'm only seeing the screen is kind of small.
Which of the screen? Is it the mobile screen or
your window?
Is it the mobile or the window I'm sharing?
The windows you're sharing.
Okay, so let me see what I can do. Are you following us with phone, or you are using laptop?
I'm using my laptop.
Okay. I guess the issue is because I'm sharing from two devices at a time. What we can be doing is when I want to talk about the code base, I will unshare that. I will stop sharing from my mobile phone so that we can actually have a clear view. So right now, let me just.
Hi, Mr. Rashid.
Okay.
Precious. So what you can do is just unpin. So there's a function for Google. You can pin one screen and you can unpin the other. So you can unpin the one that is that you want. You can pin the one you want to see, and you can unpin the other one that you don't want to see. I don't know if you understand that.
Yes, thank you. I just did it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Temi, for that confirmation. Yeah, like I mean, my mind has been up since all this while because there was no light and my system was about to shut down. So thankfully, they just restored the light now. So I mean, we can hope to achieve something great in today's session. Okay, so now let's go back to our VS Code now. Yeah, so I'm talking about. I wanted to explain what this code base is all about, right? So I said the very first one we have is the main function, which called this class. This class is called my app. Yeah, I got to know that we will not discuss, like we will not be taught what class is in that, and yeah, we'll see. Like in between these classes, I'll try to chip it in, okay? But classes basically is what we also call them widgets. We use them interchangeably. So in Flutter, everything is basically widgets. That is all the interfaces you see. For instance, this our counter application. You see, we have an app bar, right? We have the text. The app bar is a widget. The text inside it is also a widget. The text here that says you have pushed the button this many times is also a widget. So, but this floating button we have here that has plus sign is also a widget. So basically, anything you see everything in Flutter are just like widget. Okay, so and that widget is not like, it's just like a buzzword. Okay, what it actually means is class. So for you to build a widget, when you build a class that extends either stateful or stateless widget, so what we have is actually called widget. So I mean, it might not make sense right now because for the fact that we'll not actually dive deep into class itself. But I'll see the best way to chip it in as we move along. So that is just to follow up. This class is what we call here. So this class is actually also returns another widget called material app. This material app, if you look at this comments here, they said this widget is the root of your application. In Flutter development, just as we said earlier, you have flexibility of designing for both iOS and Android OS with a single code base. Okay, so Flutter is actually designed by Google, right? And Google have their own design principle called material design. So that is when you're building your app, the way your icon, if you look at Android application and iOS application, same application that is in Android and iOS, you feel, I don't know how many of us that have ever noticed it, same application, when you're running same application on your Android and those of us that are using iPhone, so there's a bit discrepancy in the UI. You must have noticed it, but if you haven't, you can go and check it out after this class, or maybe while this class is still ongoing. You see that iOS, that is iPhone, so it has a special way of rendering their pickers. That is kind of like if you want to select dates, the way it is normally presented to you on iOS is quite different from what we have in Android. And also, when you move from one page to another, the back button that is normally at the up side in iOS used to be like kind of like less than. That is that sign of less than. That is what it looks like in iOS. But in Android, it's like an arrow sign pointing backwards. So these are the differences in design when it comes to different platforms. So the way it works is that Google, which is kind of like the people behind Android design, they are Google, right? So they have their own design principle they call material design. Then Apple also have their own design principle. They are the one behind the iOS platform. They have their own design principle called Cupertino design. So when you are designing, when you are building with Flutter gives you flexibility of choosing how you want it to be, whether you want your application to follow the principle of material design or that of Cupertino design. So then for you to choose any of them, that is where this guy come from. If you choose material app here, that means all your UI is going to conform to the principle of material design. Then we can also change it to Cupertino design. So let me just try to write Cupertino app. Okay. So you can also use this. There is an error here because there are properties. That is, all these properties not the same for material app and Cupertino. So, but I just wanted to show you the spelling on. So these are the two different designs that we use in Flutter. So for you to start this, that is why it is called the root of your application. Without it, you cannot have UI. It is one that is responsible for different UI that Flutter displayed to us. Okay. So now let's change it back to what it is. So all this one. Then this material design, what we normally do here during the developments are a few numbers of things. One is theme, the theme of your app. That is the UI of your application, right? So the way you want it to look like and all of that. That is your color, the color you want to use, how the blend of color you want to use in your application, your font size, stuff like that. So you handle them in this theme. So it's one of the properties. You know, I said this is a widget, right? Material app is a widget, and I've already established that widgets are otherwise called class, and class has what are called properties. This title is a property, this theme is a property, and other stuff and other similar stuff like that. So for those of us that have not understood class.
Sorry, sir, I can't see your
okay,
screen, the laptop.
Is he the only one that is not seeing my laptop screen? Because I'm still sharing. I thought I've stopped sharing from my laptop.
Screen, maybe.
I can only see the phone screen. I cannot see the laptop.
I can see both of your screens. I don't know. Maybe you guys should join and to leave and join the meeting again. Just leave and join.
Yeah, I think that will help because it could also be network. So just leave and join as you suggested. Then so now let's move on. So that's about the material app. Then when you come here, there's another class called my home page. This my home page is the one that is rendered on this material app here. So it is the one that contains. So the function of this my app basically is to like establish that our design pattern is gonna follow the custom of material app. So that is why it just rendered this material app alone. There's no any other logic happening here. So this color scheme, they all have to do with team setup, and this use material 3. All of them has to do with team setup. Then the next class we have here is this my home page. So this is where the UI of this counter apps development started from. Okay. So first thing here is just a stateful widget. It's a stateful. Let me ask this quick question. Have we been walked through the difference between stateful and stateless widgets in our previous class by Mr. Dave? I need a response to that question. Like, whether I'm asking if you've been taught stateful and stateless widget.
No, not yet.
No, sir. We have not yet.
Oh. Okay, no problem. I'll also talk about it as we move on. So yeah, so this is the one that gives us what we have. So what the class basically do is to render a function called scaffold, and the scaffold set the background to this and that. So I don't want to spend much time here because there are a lot of things that we need to know for us to actually comprehend what's happening here. So just to show you that this is what gives rise to what you have on the screen. So now I'll be in the application we are going to build, right? So I'll try to explain all this on clear. I'll try to unpack all this on clear concept as much as I could. So now let's go back to our own mobile application. So what we do now is, I know this could be painful, but you just have to like delete all these hard-coded Flutter templates. Okay, so we don't need them anymore. Flutter, sorry, we are deleting your code, but we just have to. All right. So we don't also need all these comments. In fact, we don't need this. We don't need to set up our. We've not gotten here actually. When you are building a more robust application, we might need to do team setup and all, but for now we don't need it. We don't need it in what we're going to do in this tutorial. So let's get rid of everything up to this point too. So now basically what we have is just this. So now we don't have that my home page class anymore. So we will also delete it as well. All right, so we have a very simple code now. So I just look at what we have here: import package Flutter material data. So for you to start using that Flutter design that I've explained earlier, you have to import it. So that is what they are importing now. Like let me just Google that material design so that you see what is actually happening. Google material design.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to interrupt the cutting because we've been using our hands, and like myself and Steven, we've been trying to speak. Right. So I think for my hand, I can't see your screen. I can't see your screen again. I mean, don't for your laptop.
Yeah, that's the same issue with me. I can't see your laptop screen. It's just the phone screen that's displaying the Flutter demo homepage. I can't see the other end.
Oh. I don't know, because this is actually a very a very confusing one. Some people are seeing both the screen, while some are just seeing one. So it makes it kind of like cumbersome because I don't want to like it make it looking like it's not a problem for my own end. I didn't mean it's a problem for my own end, like it would have been applied to everybody here. But I don't know. Let me try to unpin this mobile app to see if it is the issue. So how about now? Oluwatosin and Mr. Stephen. So how about now?
Yeah, so it is still the same. So
Still
I
the
think
same.
I think I'll just I will leave the call and join again. Although I did that before, there was no changes. So let me just do it again and see.
Stephen, you can also try the same thing too. Because
Okay, I will do that.
all right, so let me pin this to the screen again. All right. So now that is why we are doing this importation here. Like we are in. Okay, I opened a link on my browser just now. So this is Google Material Design. Okay, recently we are using Material Design 3, right? So you see, it explains that is okay. Okay, I don't want to go deep in this one. This is if you want to explore different icons, like Android related icons and different color, different things that you have to do, different design related stuff you want to do with your application. So this is where you can see explore all of them. So when you do this importation, that is by writing this line of code, that is importing this material, that library. So that is actually what you are tapping from. Is that website we open, we are actually tapping from. So that's the point I just want us to get from there. So now let's come back to our own app development now, right? So remember in our last class, I said 90% of the time during our course of development, we are most likely to be dealing with this lib folder, short for library rights. So because it is the one that's going to contain almost all our data code. So that is exactly what we're going to do now. Inside the lib folder, we create a file, a dat file, okay, that we are going to use to, to build one of our our UIs, okay. Okay, I'll call the folder dive app. You can call yours anything, dive app dot. So look at what I do here. I use underscore to separate two websites. So actually this one is not as strict as what you have on command prompt. I can actually write it in this way and there will still not be problem. Dive up. So if I choose to write it like this, there's no any I will not have any issue. But to make it legible, right, it is better this way than writing it in camel case. So and this is the convention most developers use. So we are going to work with that one. So now we've created a dive app. A dat file. A dat file, right? So now what we're gonna do here is to create our own very widgets. So okay, let me just use this opportunity to walk us through class. Okay, though it's not part of our today class, but we just have to establish it because the knowledge of what we're going to do depends on it. So I don't see a way you can clearly get what most of the team will be discussing here if you don't understand classes in that. So for the purpose of that, I'm gonna walk us through classes now. So classes is not is a very core concept in object-oriented programming. So if you still remember during my first class or during the intro session, I told you there are two paradigms in programming, right? There's one they call functional programming, and there's other that is called object-oriented programming. So and how they comes about is from, should I call them our ancestors in the programming world? I think that one is good. So let's just take it like that. So, after some couple, after people have written codes in the past, they come to realization that there are patterns they could actually follow to make code more readable, more reusable, and more scalable. Okay. All right. So when they put this thing into consideration, because in the past is actually kind of crazy. It's very close to machine language code. Okay, so after they've come, after the realization of this of what I've stated earlier, that is code readability can be enhanced. Their scalability, you can also structure your code such a way that when your application is scaling, so developers will not find it too difficult to work on that application. That is what scalability in development means. Imagine Facebook application, Facebook code base. Imagine how robust it should be. It should contain hundreds of thousands of code lines, right? So anytime they still employ new developers, so they are able to manage them irrespective of the workflows. Okay, so that means they've taken into consideration concept of scalability. So that is one of the things developers normally put in mind when they are building application. So because of all these crucial things, they come up with two paradigms of programming. One is functional programming, the other one is object-oriented programming. So there are some programming language that are based on functional programming, while some are based on object-oriented programming. A typical programming language that is paradigm happens to be functional programming is JavaScript. Though the way they design JavaScript is support both. You can write functional programming, object OOP in JavaScript. You can as well write FP, that is functional programming in JavaScript. So it supports it too, but most of the time JavaScript developers they code in FP paradigm more than that of an OOP. So same thing applies to that. That is a typical example of programming language that follows OOP paradigm. So the way that engineers also engineered that is to support the two, meaning you can write functional programming paradigm in that and OOP as well. But conventionally, when we follow OOP, more often than that of FP in that, okay, to the point that most people actually conceive that to be OOP alone, without knowing that it actually supports FP at the same time. So that is how come about those two paradigms. Those are the necessity that give rise to them. So now, in object-oriented programming, what we deal with there are basically classes. While in functional programming, what we deal there are, functions. Okay, the idea of functional programming is that to make code reusable, you have to structure them in functions. That is, you have to wrap them. That is, you have to write code in pure function state. Okay, so that concept is easy, but since you are not considering that, I don't want us to spend much of our time there. You can do your research later, maybe after the class. Then, for those people that believe the way to go about programming is OOP, that is object-oriented. So they choose to write code in classes formats. So when we say class in programming, what it actually means in layman term is it's kind of like blueprints. Okay. For instance, now the common example is when you want to build a house site, you have to have like a blueprint of what the building is going to look like at the end of the day. In any development process, like even if it is manufacturing, when it comes to manufacturing industry, before you start building anything, right? So you have to have an idea, an overview of, a blueprint you are going to work with to actually bring what you are trying to build into fruition. So that, one thing about programming is that nothing is set in stone. People think the way you think in a good day to come up with ideas. Okay, so developers just feel like, why not try to like structure like have it something that could kind of like a blueprint, just the way we have in architectural field and manufacturing field, so that we kind of like take care of how we want to build our application. So the idea is basically the same. So Meaning when we are working with class, right? So when you create a class, you can create as a blueprint. What it means is that you can create objects from it. Okay, this might not make sense. Let me just try to write a code to drive that point home, the point I'm trying to make. So let's say we want to create a class. What should I call it? You can actually call it anything, right? So, but I'm trying to figure out an example that you can all relate with. Okay, since you're all students here, right? Let's call the class students. Students. Okay. This is how you create class in that. Okay, so you prefix it with this keyword, class keyword. Then there's a naming convention for writing class. When you want to start writing the name of class, you start it with capital letter, then uppercase letter. Okay, so if I start it with small letter s, there will be no issue, but we have this squiggle underline line. So that is kind of like when you tell us that the name student isn't uppercase. Okay, so that is just a naming convention. You start it with capital letter S. So we want to create what you are trying to do. I want all of us to have an overview of what you are trying to do here. We want to create a class of students. So before, just like any other development, you have to think what these students should have, what are the properties. Actually, I don't know where you are I myself don't know where we are heading to. So we're gonna work together. Okay. So we want to create a class of students, right? So I mean, we have to think what we expect these students to have, right? Like, what are the properties? What are the features these students should have? So those features, I mean, in layman term, we call it features, right? But when it comes to class, they call it properties, and that is still very much aligned, right? So what are the properties do we expect like a student to have? So those are the things we have to consider too. Then another thing
Hi,
in
Mr.
class.
Rashid. Sorry to cut you short. Yeah, appears
Okay.
that some people can't see your screen.
Yeah, I was about saying that too.
Okay. So let me just address everybody. Can you see both screens, or you can only see one screen?
One screen.
One screen. Okay. Who else can see both screen? Like who can see both screens?
I can see.
Can see both screens.
Yes, I
Okay.
pinned the mobile, then I unpinned the.
Okay. All right. So I think what you need to do is, for those of us that can't see his other screen, there's a feature on Google that it's for pin, like a those pin where you see like what's it called, Seth? I'm trying to use this tailor term. It's just a pin, sha. If you click on that pin, you can unpin the screen that you're currently seeing, and then you see something else. You see both of his screens. Quiet.
Okay, thank you for that one.
Okay.
I hope that helps, right? So let's just try the suggestion we are given and see how it goes.
Please just send a message in the chat if you still can't see his screen.
So another thing that is, when you're building class, there are two things you have to put in mind: the properties that class you're trying to build, the properties it should possess, and the behavior it should be exhibiting. So this behavior in class, we call it method. That is, I've made mention of two things now. One is property. The other is method. Okay. So I mean method. So this property, just as it sounds like property, that is the features. Then this method is like behavior that class should be exhibiting, like kind of we human being, and we can talk, we can eat, right? So those kind of stuff. So behavior. So now What are the properties that we know to be attributed to students? I mean, I just want two random answers. You can, if you want to. Okay, you can unmute yourself and talk if you want to respond to that.
Their class, like their class or level, and the name of their school.
Okay, wow. I love that. I love that idea of level and name of school. Even matric number also clicks. So I think those first two stand out to me. So they just make it up from 10. So they said the first one is their level, right? So basically what you are doing here now is declaring variable. Those variables you've been taught in the first week, that is in the first lecture. So that is how you declare the properties. All right. So you use final keyword, right? If you want to declare, there are various ways of declaring variable. I'm sure we must have been taught all of them. So this is one of the ways you can go about it. Final level, right? But this level, is it going to be a number or string or integer? I'm waiting for a response. I want the session to be as interactive as possible. That is basically what you're doing now, is flashing back on what you've been taught before. Right? So we said level, that is kind of like 100 level, 200 level, 300 level. That is those are integer size. So we use int, then the name level. Okay, there's something I just have to do, but I will explain later anyway. So 300, let's say 300 level. The guy the person we are creating this class, so let's assume the person is in 300 level. Then another one is the name of the school, the name of school, or let's call it school name, right? School name. The guy is attending. Okay. I mean, University of Ibadan here. Okay, so let me give my school the credit. Okay, I'll just type in the Ibadan here. Okay, or just UIX. Cool. So these two things that we've done now are the properties of the student class we are trying to create. So they call it properties, or some people call it fields. Or field. So this is our class field. So as a student, there are some behaviors or characteristics that are associated with us. Right? So can someone name one of those characteristics? Those are the method we are coming to. That is treating method right now. Okay. So they are the behavior students are expected to exhibit. Their characteristics and stuff like that. So can someone name one?
As a student, you should be seen with your books all the time, something like that.
Okay, we want something very explicit. Okay, to me, I can say write, your ability to write. As a student, you must know how to write, you must know how to speak, right? So those are kind of stuff that is expected of students. So now let's treat that, right? Methods, that is methods programmatically. I'm not trying to talk about in layman term now. Programmatically, they are actually function. Let me write the method first. So I'll try to connect the dots later to make sense to us. I mean, what is actually doing programmatically. So your method could return your function. What I'm writing is the function you'll be taught before. Okay, so there's nothing different. The function is right. Okay, so let's just print writing. Okay, or I can write. I can write. Okay, so then let's have one more method. Oh, is okay. So this is we've created a blueprint for student class now. So meaning, student is kind of like a generic term, right? There could be my name is Rasheed. I'm a student. We have Mr. Einstein there too, that's also a student. So these are different instances of students we can create. All of us in this classroom, we are all students, right? So we are all kind of like instances of students that can be created from this blueprint. So when we are creating a new student from this blueprint now, our properties will definitely be different, right? Or it is expected to be different. So that is we could have student that is in 200 level. Another one that is kind of like there are some that are there are some of us that are completely new to Flutter here, right? So those ones they are expected to be in 100 level. There are some that have kind of like have an overview, like a rudiment knowledge of it before. So those one could be in 200 or 300 level. There are Flutter wizard here too. I don't. I mean, I'm sure we should have. So those ones they can be. We can tag them as the finalists and all right. So the idea is each of the properties we are creating. I mean, each of the instances of this class we are creating. We definitely. I mean, their value might vary or are expected to vary. Better say. So if you want to create a new instance from these students now, that new instance you are creating. The term they used to use for it most often is object, right? So object or instance. So when I say object of this student now, okay, let me create one object and link it up. So if I want to create an instance from this blueprint, I can, okay, let me first create for myself. So if you are following up, you can create for yourself too, right? So fine now, my name is Rasheed, right? Then so when you want to create an instance of these students, what you do is to type the name of the class, right? So I'm proceeding with this parentheses. Actually, there's something happening here. It looks like name of the class, right? But this is actually called constructor. We are calling the constructor of this student class now. Class is not something we can, is a very interesting and extensive topic in all programming language. So it's not something we can actually treat all at once in this tutorial. I mean, a tutorial is not enough for us to handle everything we need to know about class, but we can also always set the foundation right? So that at our own pastime, when we're trying to like explore more on it, we can get it without much hassle. So that is just what we're trying to achieve here. So I made mention of constructor. That is another new thing, but I don't want us to be confused. Let's be taking it one step at a time. Okay. So that constructor, I will revisit it later. So just assume that we are writing the name of the class here. That is this name of the class we created is what we are calling here. But in real sense is constructor, but just take it as the name of the class. So this is how I create a new instance, a new student from this student class. Okay. So I'm now a student now. So what we can do now is that from this so this Rasheed now is the object of this student class, or you can call it object or instance of this student class. So I have this Rasheed have access to, it possesses all these properties and methods we define inside this class. That is, you can check my level now. You can do something like this. Print Rasheed. Okay. Sorry, we are doing something weird here, right? We have to do these parts inside the main function, right? I'm sure you all understand that. That is after you in that, right? When you are writing code, I mean logics, classes or functions, what you can write on when you create a new data file, I mean a new data library or file, that's when you just create new file, like just where we created dive app. Things that can go into it are classes or functions or variable initialization or declaration, whatever you want to call it. So we're trying to instantiate objects. So that was why the thing was showing error inside a class directly, like inside a file directly. So that was why we were having error before. So for that to go smoothly, it has to be inside a method or a function. So since we don't have any other function, we are using the main function here. No, okay. Let's instantiate our object again. Qualifying our sheet. So, then we call the student class. Okay, so this is it. So I said this Rasheed guy now have access to all these properties of class. So let's try to verify that. So let's say print Rasheed dot level. So let's print the level. I mean, Rasheed level now. So and see what we have there. When we run our okay, so what's happening here is that we already have this main file. Let's just comment this one for the purpose of tutorial we are doing. So let's try to run it again. So you go to your debug console, right? It's trying to run it on my phone. I guess I need to. Okay, let's go to the terminal scene. All right. So what I'll do now is that I'll disconnect. I'll disconnect my device for the meantime. So now let's try to run it again. Okay, maybe I just need to disconnect my device completely. Let's switch to window. So let me clear this. It's actually supposed to work here, but for some reason that is not very obvious. Probably, I feel like this should be a lagging issue because I've already disconnected, but it's still showing I connect on Infinix here. Just take it to copy the code and go to that part, okay, and run it there while this guy is recovering. So we'll come back to it, but let's just go to that part for now to see the outcome of what we've done. Guess my network is bad right now. I don't know why that part is not opening. Okay. All right. So now let's paste our code here. So let's run it and see now. I guess I'm having lagging issue right now because I don't know how on it these guys should not respond. But okay, let's do something different. I have a dat file that I used to teach on my GDSC group. So I will try to open that one as a new fresh folder. Then we run our code there. So then we'll come back to our this is our Flutter repo. So I'm actually having a lagging issue. As you can see, my loader is spinning right. So my PC is actually it's loaded up. Like I've been working on it, trying to move some stuff on it. I want to try this one once more time if that's come back to normalcy. Anyway, let's quickly let's open the one I'm talking about. Okay. My PC is actually lagging right now. Anyway, that comes with Windows. But let's see. Hopefully this approach should work. So let's just create class site. We are working on class, so we'll call it. You can actually call it anything, but let me just call it class dot. Class dot. Okay, that has already made use of that name. That is why it is not working through. So let's give it another name. Kind of like class tutorial, right? Class tutorial. Okay. This lagging of it is just a mess. Anyway, so let's paste our code here. I want it to compile first, because if it compiles, there will be some coloration before I will actually run it. Like I can't run it right now because it's not showing the run button here. So let's give it some few seconds. Still getting ready. Let me see if we have any chats in the chat session. I mean, okay, so it is ready now. Okay, now this one. Okay, this one too is ready. So you see the color has changed and this one button is not showing. So now let's try to run it and see if we have what we are expecting. It's kind of like loading nights. Let's give it some seconds. It's still loading anyway. So finally it has shown something right. So we have the 300 level here. I mean, I'll try to work on my PC immediately after this call because let me check my storage space. I guess my storage is filled up already. So that's why I'm encountering all this lagging of it in. But I'll try to create space as much as I can for our next tutorial so that we can actually avoid this lagging of it in, because I'm actually perceiving it to be a bad energy right now. Let me check my storage if I need to delete some stuff right now. Anyway, so this is this instance or objects that I just created, Rasheed, so have access to any of these things. So if I also do print Rasheed.write, so you should be able to tell me that I can write, okay? So, but let's try to create another, just to demonstrate the idea of class. Let's try to create another instance. So I need someone to tell me his or her name so that we can create an object of you on our class method. Who's ready? Okay, let me just pick a name randomly from here. So I'll create a class for Abiola. Okay. So we can have something like final Abiola again. Then the pattern is same. Okay. So we also call the class constructor, which is students. Then so now Abiola 2 has access to all these class properties. Are we still following? Are we still all together? Because I want to explain another thing now. So let me know if you get it up to that point. We'll discuss it soon. Do we all get everything we've said about classes? Okay, that's good.
Yes.
All right. Let me close this thing. Maybe the one that is contributing to the lag. All right. So now that's the thing. Then another thing is from what you're doing now, you see that any object or instance of this class you create tends to have these properties, like their properties are already predefined. But on like in real sense, right, we expect different objects we are creating for this blueprint to be kind of like a vary, right, to be different. Like when I should be able to have a different level from Abiola, right? So that is how it should work, like on a grand scheme of things. But right now, any object we create will have this level of 300 because you already had coded it here. So what you can do is that you can set these properties to another value, or the way you go about it is to use constructor. So that is where the constructor I've been making mention of. If you want to define class constructor, it should take same name and the class name. Then with this column. Actually, constructor is a function that run the class. Okay. This is let me try to do it in the way you understand function before I will narrow it down. So this is how you expected any function to be written, right? That is after these parentheses for parameter, then you follow it up with this scope, this double curly braces. So the constructor is the one that is helping you to instantiate object from a class. This thing we are doing here now, this final Rasheed student, is called object instantiation. So what is actually doing that function is the class constructor. So when you are using class constructor allow you to initialize variable or these properties. Ordinarily, like you cannot define any properties for a class without assigning it a value. So that was why I have to just like put all these values here. If I try to just create this final level without giving it a value, you see that I will have an error. Maybe the thing is compiling because I'm expecting an error. Okay, very soon you see that this thing is underlined with red because it's still loading, right? It's showing loading. So this is invalid because anytime you declare a variable, like a variable in a class or field in a class, you are expected to give it a value. So usually there are ways to go about it. You can make this int type to be a nullable type. Okay, by using this question mark. So this question mark means it is nullable, meaning it can take a null as its value too. So this, my again issue persists. If not, you would have seen that without this thing, there is a lead underline here, meaning it is complaining about it. But for the fact that it is still loading, it is flagging. So that is why we are not seeing all of that. So that is where the constructor comes in. If you want to use constructor, you will call the class name and assign it a value. That is, remember I said constructor is used for class initialization. Variable or field initialization, right? So you do something like this. For this level, you can do something like this dot level. Okay. Then for the school name, you can do this dot school name. So with this done, we can now remove this hard-coded value within our variable before. So, but if you want to understand how this is working, like why this keyword that you are seeing here. So this keyword is actually referring to the class itself. It is telling you the objects you are currently in, okay, the class you are currently in. So this here, if you want to find what this here is, this class we are creating this variable from. So this here is referring to this object we are creating from this class. Okay, what I mean is when we do this print Rasheed.level, this here is referring to, I told you this here is referring to this class, that is this class we are instantiating objects from. Okay, so traditionally this is how it goes. This concept is not always easy to grab by revisiting it and expanding research to demonstrate something to us to kind of like make the knowledge, the knowledge safe. So look at the way we used to do class initialization before, or what we just did using that this is similar to something like this. So I have level here, right? I can say level, then I call it level, okay? Then I have that name equals to school name. So this is basically what I simplify to be just students using this dot level and this dot school name. All right. So this one above here, let me comment it to avoid them unnecessary error. So this guy above and this one here, they are also given to you to avoid this long code, to congest this long code to just single line. So this is just, it is asking which class are you referring to? Are you calling this property? Are you accessing this property from? So you said this. This here is referring to this student. Okay. So that's just the idea behind it. So this constructor now, it should be the one whenever you are instantiating a new object. If you look at it carefully, we call this constructor the way we call function sites. So I told you functions are just constructor that create or instantiate objects from a class. So we call the constructor the way we call normal function. So it will help us to instantiate, create these variables and assign value to them. Okay. So that is just the idea about the constructors. So by using constructor, we have the flexibility of assigning different value to our properties. Okay, because what is actually happening here right now is that by doing this, we are requiring, okay, let's use the require keyword. By default, we are requiring this level and school name. My PC is still lagging because ordinarily you should have been seeing that this one is not supposed to be in white color. If I have one, you should see that it's still loading. Right, it's still loading, so the lagging still persists. So, but ordinarily, like what we should have been seeing right now is something like this. Like when I try to create a new object, this sheet of students, so I must provide a value for this level and school name. If I don't, I'll be thrown an error. All right. So that is just this thing. So that is how because with this constructor we are using here, what it is telling us is that whenever we are creating new object from this class, we must give these properties that we put a lead line here to tell you that there's an error, because I'm not giving this constructor level and what's it called, the name of the school. So to the way we will now instantiate any new object now will now be like this. First thing, the first one there is level, right? So I'll first give my constructor level first, then I'll follow it with the name of the school. Okay, so this is it. Then if I want to create another object, let's say the Abiola wanted to experiment with, it will go in this way. So let's say Abiola is in 200 level and his school name is Abiola. What is the name of your university? Is it OAU or whatever? Okay, maybe Abiola is not hearing us right now. Let's just assume he's. What do you say?
I said I'm right here.
Can you come again?
Who are you?
I mean, it's so annoying that my laptop is hanging. I mean, yeah, it's quite unusual actually. It's because of the way I've overloaded it. But anyway, we get the point. To recap or to drive the idea home with about everything we said about classes, right? So I'm sure we get it to the point of properties and method declaration. So the idea of constructor is to help you initialize your variable. So constructors are functions that help you instantiate or create an object from your class blueprints. Okay, so when you are instantiating a new object, just the way we instantiate Rasheed object and Abiola object from this class, what we are calling, you will see that we call the class name. You might be thinking that we are calling the class name, but what we're actually calling in real sense is the constructor, not the class name. Okay, so but you might be thinking right now that why in the first one we did, why were we not having error? Because we never put this constructor and the thing still worked fine. Like we got 300 level printed earlier on, right? So what that is doing for you underneath the hood is that whenever you create a new class without specifying its constructor, you are the one that don't know the mistake you are making. That knows that you are doing something wrong. So underneath the hood, it will create an empty constructor for you. So mean that very first time that we wrote our class without putting a constructor, that has already done something like this for us. It creates an empty constructor like this. Students. So it gave us something like this underneath the hood, but we were not seeing it, but it actually did it. So that was why we were able to instantiate this student object, this Rasheed that gave us 300 before without having an error. Okay. So my PC is still again the issue we're having this. Okay. So now this error we are having now, we know we've given it a property, right? So that's why we are having this error now. So to avoid the error, we just have to do this dot level this dot name. Okay. This is the school name rather. Okay, so that is that about constructor. So now let's go back to our main point of discussion, which is the application we are trying to build. So now hopefully you'll be able to understand the when I say classes are we just add classes, you should be able to relate to what I'm saying. But there's another point that is worth mentioning for you to fully get where we are going to. So it is idea in object-oriented programming. There are three pillars. I mean, not three, four, actually four solid pillars in object programming. So, but we might not have time to look at all of them, but I'll just give you a little overview. So there's what we call polymorphism, or there's what is called polymorphism. Then there's what is called inheritance. There's another one called encapsulation. Encapsulation. Then can I remember the last one? Polymorphism, inheritance. Okay, abstraction. So these are the four core pillars of object-oriented programming. Okay, so this thing, they are just terminology, so they are not as difficult as you are seeing them. But for the sake of time, maybe as we move on, right, we'll find each of these concepts relevant. So we'll be revisiting all these concepts we just discussed. We'll be revisiting them as we move on. So don't worry if you don't get it, clearly, if you don't get it completely from this this one we've done. So it is okay. Like nobody gets it completely from the get-go, from the very beginning. So, but as you revisit it and as you do your own research, the knowledge will get to like reinforce and consolidate on you. So now we don't have time to look at each of these because it is pertinent or necessary we actually build our application today. So I'll just explain this inheritance because that is another thing that is very paramount to what you are going to do. So inheritance is ability for your class to inherit from another classes. Okay, we said, let me use this thing to explain this. We said we are creating a student object, right? So the student object has level and school name. So there is a possibility for us to create another class. Let's say we are creating another class, something that's similar to student. Okay, let's say we are creating another class of apprentice. Okay, apprentice. I can't spell. Okay, something like this. So this apprentice, they also have level, right? When you just registered someone at a workplace, right? So the person is like an entirely beginner. So kind of like the level of that person is akin to people in 100 level, right? So there are some that have spent about 2 to 3 years there. So those one maybe we can say they are in 200 or 300 level. So and there are some that are due for freedom, right? So those one they are the finalists. So the idea is that apprentice is okay to have a property called level 2, right? So that's the thing. Then another thing is okay, let's just change this school name to name. Okay, I'm just trying to drive out a point. You get it very soon. So let's just change it to name. So apprentice should also have name, right? They are expected to have name as well. So the another property it could have is name. So to avoid this error I'm having, I've said it before, my laptop was lagging before. That's why we were not seeing these errors that in the previous classes we built. So now we declare the variables, these properties, without initializing them. That's why we are having these errors. So for me to avoid this error now, there are different ways actually. One thing I could do is to assign a value to these variables, to give it value like this. Then if I don't have value yet, because sometimes you don't have value to give your variables and you just create them. So there are different things you can do. You can make that type to be nullable. That is, the type will be allowed to take null value. So this is how you do it. I know you don't understand what is meant by nullability, but as we move on, you get to understand it in our subsequent classes. So this will solve the issue. Very soon now you see that this error vanish. My piece is still lagging. That is why it is still showing. So you can make the type to be nullable, or you can use constructor to make that particular field required. Like you must provide it. So when you use constructor, the stuff we know that you must provide it for you to move on. So those are different ways. So, but the point I'm trying to drive out here now is that this is another class called apprentice. If you look at it, it has some properties. It has a shared property in common, shared properties with student classes. So the apprentice has properties called level, just like our students. Then it has name, just like our student. So this is kind of like code repetition. And in programming, there's this common principle of dry, right? Do not repeat yourself. So as a programmer, like you are trying to make you are expected to make your code to be as dry as possible. That is to avoid repetition to the best of your ability. So now we are prone to doing some code repetition now, right? So why, like, the thing is, why can't just we extend, like, build this thing, this apprentice on top of this student class, since they have some similarity. They have similarity in terms of level, right? So we are expected to, just build this apprentice on top of the student class, since they already have like some features in common. So that is where the idea of inheritance comes. Just like you are creating a human class. So from that human class, okay, you are creating a class of car. From that class of car, you are now creating various cars. You have a class of car that is kind of like self-driving car. Okay, so that self-driving car, it is expected to have some common features, like some basic features of car. Any car you are creating, right, is expected to be able to move, right? It's expected to be able to it is expected to be able to move. I can't remember some must have features of cars right now, but that movement is very necessary. So anytime you're now creating a new class, irrespective of its type, let's say it is a self-driving car. Self-driving car too must be able to move. If it is like sliding, like all these sliding car, it should also be able to move.
Sorry, just to confirm, can anyone hear Mr. Rasheed? Or is it just me?
I can't hear him also. I think something might have happened to him.
All right, thank you guys.
Okay, hi guys. So while we look to get our instructor back on, I'm going to share. I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. Just give me a reaction if you can. Sorry, I had to leave the call earlier to attend to something very important. So I'm going to share an attendance form with. Oops, wrong thing. I'm going to share. Can you guys give me a reaction if you can hear me loud and clear, please? I really need that. Thank you. Okay, so everybody on this call, I'm going to send something to the chat box right now. Is your attendance. Please, please, please fill that form. Okay, so yeah, Mr. Oluwatosin.
All right, so I just want to make a suggestion, right? So I don't know. I mean, just to it's in line with the attendance of a thing, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there is a software or a link, an extension for Chrome that you can use to track attendance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually did that for I think one of our classes too. I can share the PDF later, but
That'd be so good.
yeah. So I actually have the extension installed on my Chrome actually, and I'm currently tracking the attendance right now. But if you can get that the extension, it will like yeah. Or
Yeah.
I can I can share it with you.
Yes,
I
please.
can share it with you just to make the attendance much more seamless than we. I mean, I'm just suggesting actually. So
yeah. I think that would be great. It was one of the things I also wanted to suggest to Miss Temi. Unfortunately, she's not on this call. She also has to attend to something. So I'll talk to her about it. But then please feel free to share with me. Is it Google Attendance? Is it? No, it's not Google Attendance. It's Meet. I think I've used a similar extension before, a long time ago during COVID time when we had classes online. I think I've used something like that before. But I'd be so glad if you could share with me, so at least we can cross-check with whatever attendances that we have. Okay, Miss Temi is here. And Miss Temi, I know you may not be able to speak right now, or maybe you may be, but then there was a suggestion on board. I might talk to you about it in the background, but then just so you know, Mr. Oluwatosin, sorry if I murdered your name, I'm so sorry. But Mr. Tosin suggested that there's a Chrome extension for attendances. So we can use that to immediately somebody like joins the meeting, the extension captures the name, the details of the person that the person joins the meeting with. So I can see somebody joins with Crown signatures. We would cross-check that with whoever has a name like Crown signatures. I think the only issue, Mr. Tosin, the only issue with that would be people do not sign up with their full names as compared to what we have in our register. I don't know if you understand. I'm a perfect example. My name isn't Mr. E, but on Google it shows as Mr. E. So if we are to use that extension, it means the extension. Please feel free. Please talk. All
right. So, yeah. So the thing I don't want to interrupt, right? So that's why.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the tracker picks the email of the.
Oh, then that's perfect.
Right.
Okay.
I guess so. I guess so. But yeah.
Okay. So we can try it out in the next class. Please feel free to send it to me. Sorry. Please feel free to send it to me so I can save that information and then we can try it in the next class. And then guys, I sent a thing. I sent the form into the chat box. So please fill that form so we know everybody who was present here today. Kevin, I think I saw you leave and join. Have you seen the message in the chat box? Just give me a reaction. Okay, I think Kevin's gone again, unfortunately. Oh no, Kevin is here. Okay, great. So you can see the message in the chat box. Please, everybody, make sure you fill that form. It's very important to us. Your Slack email address. Please make sure you fill the specific email address that you created the Slack with, and then rate the class today, rate the instructor. If anything went wrong, we are open to feedback. Yes, Miss Temi.
Hi guys. So I wanted to talk about the suggestion that we raised. It's a very good idea, but I feel like we will be missing out on some things. Take for instance, we won't be able to rate the instructor. Although also when somebody joins in, what if the person joins and leaves? Is there like a function or for that? We won't be able to add our Slack name to the what's it called, to the tracker that captures people that come for the class. So those are just my concerns. But aside that, I feel like it's something I can discuss with the organizers of the class and then get back to us.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, I actually thought class has ended. Oh, sorry, Mr. Rashid.
Okay. The thing is, there was some background noise. They are doing campaign on my campus, so the background noise was famous, so I just have to kind of stay off stay the unconnected for a moment so before joining again. So now I want the next part is gonna be a very quick one. So that is creating our mobile application. So we've kind of laid down the foundation. So we should be able to just glide through effortlessly compared to if we haven't had it laid down. So now let's see what we can do. The application I want us to build here right now is a very simple application because the today's topic is not supposed to be classes and all. It's supposed to be understanding, styling, and widgets in Flutter. Okay. So but I have to just link it up with those stuff because when we say widget, if you don't understand classes, widget will just be like another buzzword to you. Okay. So now the classes we've created earlier in Flutter, we call it widgets. So widget is basically classes. Okay. So and everything in Flutter are widgets. So meaning everything you see in Flutter are made from classes. Okay. So now want to see some Flutter gives us some widgets. That is there are a lot of apparently anything we need. Flutter team has already built it for us. Okay, so everything almost all core functionalities have already been built by Flutter team. So there are a lot of pre-built widgets. So then we can also create our own custom widget, like to suit our own purpose, like our specific use cases. So that is how it works. But right now I want to see some widgets you have access to. That is by virtue of installing Flutter on your laptop or setting up your Flutter environment, you have access to a lot of widgets. Okay, so we want to see some of them and also what you can do with them. So let me share my screen again because I noticed my screen is not shared now. So I'll try to share my screen again. So I'm also trying to reconnect to my mobile device. I mean, because I got disconnected from it earlier. Right now, like we are going to build application, so I need to be showing what the interface look like. So give me 1 minute to reconnect with my mobile device again. Anyway, while that is still going on, like while I'm doing that, let me see here if it is still. So I was talking about stateful widget or stateless widgets. They are the widget that almost all like with all the widgets you are building for your UI, that is anything that has to like display to your user side, that is user interface. So they will either extend, that is inherit property sites from stateless widget or from stateful widgets. So, and the difference between this stateless widget and stateful widget is when you're building Flutter application as a Flutter developer or engineer, so you should be able to make your decision when to use stateless or stateful widgets. So if you know that the application, the interface you're going to have is going to be static, it's not going to be changing. There's not going to be an interactivity that is on it. So that is where you use stateless widget. For instance, now, like you should have noticed that anytime you are opening an application, right, when you just tap on it, so there's a splash screen or onboarding screen that the thing normally display. So there's no interaction. You're not tapping it. There's no interaction we are doing with such a page. So as a Flutter developer, when you're building such a page, you build it, you extend from stateless widgets. So if you are doing anything, like there's not, the rule of thumb is anytime you are doing anything that which will not be dynamic, you don't have button that when you click, you should change anything. So there's no interactivity happening. So you use stateless widgets. If interaction that is to come up or something should change, those kind of things. So that is where you use stateful widgets. So let's start from stateless widget first. Okay. So I have customized my Flutter setup. You can just type STFL, so it should give you the boilerplate. So in case you don't get all of this, let me just use some couples of, or let me, okay, I said we should use stateless, not stateful, right? Because stateless is kind of simpler than stateful widgets. Okay, it's not to recommend it right now. Okay. So this is, if you want to, is basically a class, right? So you see the name is my widgets here now. So you can change this class name to everything. Or, let me build it from scratch so that we can all follow along. So I told you any widget you are building, you have to import that material data to tell Flutter what you are, the designing pattern you are following. So class, we can call this class dive app class, right? So it will extend from Flutter stateless widgets. This stateless widget is a class on its own, okay? Built by Flutter for you to make use of when you're building a UI that is not dynamic. Stateless widgets. Okay, I think that spelling should be correct, right? Okay, it's correct. So this is it. Then next thing now is you can, if you like, you can build a super for it, but we don't actually need super now, so because we've not talked about it. So now let's try building our UI. So let's just have our constructor first. Without the constructor, you'll not be able to instantiate a new object from it. So let's just have the dive app constructor. Okay. So I'm not actually passing it any super because we are not referring to any we are not going through any hierarchy. So all these things, they are still concept of classes that you're gonna get in like as you move on. Then next thing now is to start building our UI. So the first thing is this override. Remember in our pillars of OOP, right? I made mention of something like polymorphism. So this override of a thing has to do with that polymorphism, but we get it very soon. Maybe in our next class. We don't have time to look at it right now. So widgets build, then your build context heights. I will explain this very soon, but let me just write out the code now. So what is happening here right now is this. First, we created the class like that is dive abstract that testing for the test video. Then we call it constructor so that we should be able to instantiate the class. Then this will get this build method. Build method is a function, right? When a function is inside a class, we call it method. So don't be confused when I'm using function and method interchangeably. Function that is inside the class is called method. So this is given to you by by Flutter. Okay. So that is why when I use that template, that's template that generated this one for me. You see everything just come on a get go. So, but this is actually what's happening. So it's a function that is given to you. It is this one that is in charge of your UI rendering, like what you are seeing. Or that counter app that we saw the other time, the app bar, the counter body, the floating button, and all of that. So it is this function that Flutter is using under the hood to generate, to build that UI for you. So it is one of the life cycles of states, of widgets in Flutter, okay, or in classes, as we call it. We will still get to understand it as we move on because we are still going to talk about something like life cycles in widgets. So there the knowledge will be solidified, but just know that it's a function given to you by Flutter and it is in charge of UI related stuff. Okay, you don't put a logic for database or other computation in this method. Okay, it's basically for UI, your user interface. So now let's move on. There's a typo, maybe there's a spell mistake. Oh yeah, this has to be capital letter C. So now the next thing now is to return a scaffold. So I'll quickly explain scaffold. Before I move on, this class is supposed to end by 10:30. So but this is already 10:31. So should we try to make sure that our energy still remain as active as before? I'm soliciting you guys' opinion this time around. Like, should we adjourn this session, this development of app to the next class again, or we should just try to see through it now? So which one do you think it will work best for us? Because there's still a lot of things to set in place before actually building apps so that we can all be on the same page. Any suggestion on what I say? Should we extend the class till 11 and build our mobile application, or we should stop it here so that we should try to digest what we studied about classes and we just off it in then in our next class we build our application. So which one do we think it will work best for us? Okay, Oluwatosin, you can, I'm with you. I'm all ears, you can speak up. Okay, let's build a mobile app. Awesome, that's cool. So I want to believe we all agree we should build the mobile app, right? Do we all agree to that? We should go ahead and build the mobile app.
I'm sorry, guys, but this is a speak now or forever hold your peace kind of situation.
I was just about to say the same thing. You guys should speak up. What are they? Is everybody on this call, please?
Yes, yeah, let's build a mobile, but I just hope that the class is being recorded. I can go back.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
All right, then we can proceed.
So that is we shoot our time to 11 then. So so let's keep moving on.
Please, if you are raising your hand, please just talk. Tosin, please go
Alright.
first.
So now what's
Yeah,
happening
my
here?
opinion. Can I
Please go ahead.
continue?
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Network, don't carry that guy, go.
Okay, so
Mr. Rasheed,
Okay,
please
thank you.
continue.
I don't know my opinion. Based on that
okay, I lost your voice. So for the sake of time, let's just move on. Okay. So now remember what you're trying to do here is to explain some widgets and also build our application. I've already established it that by virtue of you installing Flutter in your application, you have access to a tons of widgets. Like there's quite a number of them, okay, that Flutter you have access to. That is the one you are provided with by Flutter team, the one they built for you. So, and I told you can also build your own from scratch. So maybe in subsequent class you see how to do that. So right now what we want to explore is how to actually make use of widgets that you are given access to by Flutter. I mean, what do you use them for, and how to make use of them too. So that is exactly what we are going to look at here right now. Okay. Yeah. So there's error in this environment that let me figure it out first before moving on. Okay. So now we've already explained this material app widgets. Now, when I say widget, you should just know what I'm referring to. That it is classes that Flutter built for you. So if you don't still understand that, so let's see something here. If you hold your control and you press on your dots, that is control dots. I mean, if you highlight a particular widget, right, and if you highlight a particular widget and you click on control dots, you can. Okay, let me try it again. Okay, what's my expectation was it should take us to the class, that is the official class with which this widget is created, but it is acting differently. I guess I missed the code, like I forget the right shortcut to access it. But anyway, Flutter is an open source project, so unlike other frameworks like Swift, you have access. That is what makes it very interesting. You have access to see how that or Flutter engineers actually built a particular widget from scratch. So by that, you can have a better understanding of the workflow. You can customize it to your own need. So I've forgotten the command to access it. Maybe when I remember, I will let us know. That was exactly what I wanted to see. Hasn't been it works out. So we could have just seen that this is actually a class. Like they will start it with a class just as our other classes. But anyway, so let's move on. So having created this dive app class, we render it in this our home. So we've already said this material app is the roots of our application, right? So we are going to plug in that dive app into this one. I mean, this one means like kind of like a home page if you are from web. Okay, so that is the first widget or the first interface you are going to see when whatever you put here is the first thing you are going to see when your app is launched. So when our app is launched, what we want to see is the dive app. the dive app interface. Okay, so we'll render it in the home. So we are having error because we've not imported it. We've not we created the file here, right? And we are making using of it at main.dat. So you cannot work like that unless you have it imported. So the importation allow you to access this code in another file, like a code in one file in another file is accessed through importation. So that is why we'll have to import it right now. So just import it like that. So now you will look at it here, we import that dive app.dat. So we now have access to this dive app. Now very soon you'll see that this error disappears. Okay, it's still showing because of my lagging issue. Anyway, it will soon disappear. So now let's move on. Oh, it's not lagging issue, it's because I'm using a constant for my constructor. So now there's another widget that you are seeing here, which is scaffold. Another very important widget, scaffold. So scaffold is a widget that allows us to build interface. Okay, think of it like the widget that do the painting on, Flutter. Actually, the way Flutter works is that it's just paint on your windows, like on your screens. So it is designed to work in such a way through Flutter engine. Flutter engine actually makes use of a two-dimensional framework called Skia. So that guy do the painting on your surface. Like in the app I shown us the other time. So it knows how to paint. It's that engine or the interpreter or the compiler, whatever you want to call it, or the Flutter engine. It knows how to do the painting. It knows how to design the app bar the way you coded it, the way to design the body and that floating body and that plus sign and all of that. So that is the engine that is doing the work. So this scaffold, it is the widget that gives you access to app bar. That is, it allows you to have app bar in your widgets. It allows you to have access to bottom navigation bar, drawer. I don't know if if you can make sense of all this thing I'm stating. Like, let me open an application or show us that our application that we run the other time. Let me run it from here. So the app bar, the bottom navigation bar, the drawer, and stuff like that, you will access them through this scaffold. Okay. So scaffold basically give you, allow you to access the entire screen of your device and put different widgets at respective places. So that is the function of it. Then another thing that is worth of noting here is that Flutter has official documentation or docs or documentation page that you can always visit, where every widget is explained. Okay, so as a Flutter developer, like, you are never going to know all the widgets that is even out there. So because you get to access them, like when the necessity arises. Okay, so but if you want to actually lay hand on a lot of widgets as much as you can, so you want to check out Flutter official documentation. So there you can, okay, so that's the link. You can get started and start looking at different widgets out there. So, and then it is very necessary you try to research on a particular widget before you start making using of it. During the course of your development or your work as a Flutter developer, so you are going to encounter new widgets that you never tried before. So the way to go about it is just to do your Google search. So when you do your Google search, it will direct you to this Flutter official page. So there you see how Flutter explains that widget should be used and what it is meant for. So you will make sure that is something you are always giving consideration. So now back to our code. So we said we have access to another widget called app bar. So I think you should be able to make sense of what's going on now, right? We write app bar. This app bar is kind of like a property in the scaffold class, right? Do you get it? Scaffold is a widget, meaning it is a class. So we are calling something like ABBA. So you should know that this ABBA is a property or field defined in that scaffold class. So, and what it accepts is this another widget called ABBA. Okay, ABBA is a widget that allows you to design your ABBA in your application. So I want us to be testing along as we are developing. Okay. I want us to fix this error. The argument type can't be accessed. So maybe I just have to make it a constructor. Then let's run the quick fix. Oh, we're actually making a very minor mistake. Remember, I told you when you are instantiating an object, you instantiate the constructor. So I was calling it without putting the parentheses. That was why the error was showing the other time. So it's kind of like an oversight. So, but that is it. Then now we don't have any error again. So now we don't have any error again. So now let's move back to our dialog. So I want to test the application so that everything we are doing will be seeing what they actually looks like. So get ready to start seeing my device screen. Let me first join the call. I guess I'm logged out of the call again. I'll first join. Okay, so while I'm joining, so let's move on. So the app bar give you access to the app bar session. Okay, so if you want to paint on it, there is a property in the app bar called title. So the title is like the name you want to give to your app bar. So, and anytime you want to write a text in Flutter, use another widget. Remember, everything is widget. So use another widget called text. So the text widget allow you to write. So we first have to like call it first, then give it a name we want to give it. So let's say the title of our application would be called Live App. Okay. So I want to join with my device so that I can share this screen, but it's not clicking yet, but I'm still on it because I want us to be seeing the UI while you are doing it so that we can be making sense of it. Like you see how things is working practically. So let's just give me a minute to join the call and start sharing my screen.